Welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root, where we dive deep into understanding and addressing root causes of chronic health issues so you can help and find healing inside and out, now and forever. Hello, and welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root. I'm Megan Abbott, owner and founder of the holistic health practice Trifecta Collective. Welcome to the podcast. So today's topic is all about why, as women, we should be working on embodying our feminine energy as much as we can. And I want to talk more. We've talked about the masculine and feminine a few times on the podcast here, but today I want to look at this a little bit differently and talk about this in a relationship to the healing process, in relationship to how our nervous system is really affected by being stuck in one or the other, and also being too much in our masculine. And what does that really do? And what are some of the ramifications, negative, that can really play a role in all of this, in our nervous system, in our ability to heal, our ability to stay healed. And I'm also going to bring in a lot of hormone related topics in conjunction with this. And just because hormones really play such a big role in our bodies, and they're always changing. And we just work with so many women, and I just hear from so many women how frustrated they are that their body's always changing, how I can see from a visual standpoint, but really also from lab work, from symptoms, the role that so many of us get so stuck in our masculine energy. And I'm going to share a lot of my own personal experience over the last couple of years, really working on this and working on this within a relationship, and how much this has changed me, has changed my body, has changed my nervous system. And I also share some, let's say, bumps in the road that I have experienced, that Jonathan and I have both experienced kind of along this journey. And I think I'm thinking about having Jonathan come on and us doing an episode together and to talk about a male perspective on this, but also have some of his thoughts and some of the ways that some of the things that he has learned about supporting the feminine, about what it really means to be in his masculine, and how I support him as I'm in my embody, try to embody as much as I can my feminine energy and feminine essence, and what that has done within our relationship, what that has done with his healing, with my healing, and how that has looked together. So stay tuned for that. I am thinking about that. So if you want that episode, be sure to let us know. Send us a comment, or put a comment. Send us a DM, whatever you feel best with, and let me know if you'd like to have him on. I also want to share a little bit of personal news before I dive into this topic, and it's actually quite the segue. As some of you have reached out and saw last week on social media, Jonathan and I did get married. We had just a teeny tiny ceremony, and I have more pictures to share. I haven't gone through we have a ton of pictures, so I just haven't picked out which ones that I want to share with you guys. But we had a teeny tiny ceremony on the property that we're staying at, and then had some lunch after, and it was beautiful and perfect, and everything I wanted to feel, I felt during that ceremony. There's a little hiccup at the beginning of the day. I woke up and didn't feel the best. I really think it was just, we had a lot of stress leading up to that. We were really busy leading up to it, which once again, great segue into our topic of conversation today. And I was struggling a bit in the morning, and fortunately was feeling better and better enough. Jonathan was also so kind and sweet to have some other things prepared just in case I wasn't feeling great by the time our ceremony time kicked in. And yeah, it was our mutual friend married us, and she had some beautiful words to say. We read our own vows, which were so totally perfect. I cried quite a lot, which I was totally expecting. And yeah, it was great just to have such a super small group of just some really close, more local kind of people in the space, and it was great. So thank you for all those who reached out and said congratulations and all that kind of stuff. And we will be sharing some more pictures with you guys. And once again, I mean, I was barefoot in a field under some beautiful trees. It was, yeah, it was everything I wanted uh, in a wedding, which was not a whole lot, just something super small, intimate, and something that was really meant for just for us. And that's exactly what it felt like. So great lead in to this topic. So when we look at masculine and feminine energies, they both have value for all parties. All humans have both masculine and feminine energies. Both are great, both have a lot of value. And when we get stuck in one or the other, or we are too much in one without, and I don't like the word balance, but being able to flow easily between, that's where we see a lot of these issues. And I know, especially I'm a millennial, and looking at millennials and kind of like a couple generations above the millennial, especially, I really felt like we grew up in a time where we were told that women could do anything. Women could be anything, they could do anything. We could hold big jobs, we could be lawyers, like we could do all the things. And I know, at least for me, I feel like sometimes there was, and this also may have been because I grew up with a single mom, and she had her own whole host of trauma related issues when it came to her feminine essence, and then also the masculine, for sure. That I definitely, that generational trauma, some of that was passed down to me. But it really felt growing up like I could be anything and do anything. And at the same time, that I had to really work and prove myself and almost put myself into this masculine box to do it. Where, up until just a few years ago, I would have told you that I am a type A personality. I am a perfectionist. I like to be on the go. I like to do things. I love my list. I love to cross things off my list. I like to be in charge. I like to lead. I like to plan because I know if I do it, I'm going to do it well. Group projects were always a nightmare because I was always on top of things. And other people weren't so much. And so it really felt like I was superwoman. I did very well in high school. I was involved in a ton of clubs. Same thing in college. I did very well academically in college. I was a triple major in college, which what a horrible decision. No need to put that kind of pressure on myself at that time. One would have been just fine. I always had two or three outside of my first semester of college. I had two or three jobs, 2 to 4 jobs at any given time. I was very involved in different clubs. I was in a sorority. I was always involved in a lot and doing a lot, and that's just how things were. And so when I got into the workplace, I carried that same work ethic, that same drive of wanting to excel, wanting to lead, wanting to do all the things, wanting to make it to the top and do that. And I became an entrepreneur pretty quickly. Within about a year and a half of graduating from high school, I was running my first business. And I mean, by no means was I ready for that at all. And I did it. I did it decently. A lot of mistakes, a lot of learning opportunities there. And I was working a lot. I mean, after college, I was typically working anywhere between 50 to 80 hours. At one point, I was working closer to 80 to 100 hours a week. And of course, by 25, 26, I was totally burnt out. Just totally, completely just in total burnout mode because I was going since I was really young. I was a parent really young. At 7 or 8, I was a parent. I was taking care of my mom every single night. I wasn't sleeping. I had sleep trauma from a very young age, making sure that our home was safe while my mom went out. And then when she got home, making sure that she was safe and was comfortable and had a blanket and had a place to sleep and the doors were locked and the lights were off and doing all of these things. So I was pushing my masculine pretty immediately. And a piece of that is because she was in her masculine so much. And what do I mean by masculine? Really, and I'm talking here mostly unhealthy masculinity. And this looks like, trying to be the ultimate overachiever, putting work and career in front of everything else, making fun of and or disrespecting the women who wanted to be stay-at-home moms and discounting the level of work, physically, mentally, emotionally, that goes into that of if a woman wasn't career oriented in any sort of fashion or sacrificed her career, there's a lot of judgment on my end for a long time, and I couldn't wrap my head around it because for me, that felt like safety. And it was, of course, a false sense of security. Having to kind of have control over everything, false sense of security. If you are someone who wants to be superwoman or tries to be superwoman, you are probably burnt out already or pretty close to it. And or you're really stuck in your masculine. And here's the thing, being able to embody our healthy masculine as women, superpower. It's great. It's so helpful for so many things. For example, when we do have some situations that come up and we need to be very task oriented, we need to get a lot of stuff done. We've got a lot on our plate. Maybe you've got kids and you've got to run them around. You've got deadlines at work. Maybe you've got aging parents and you've got to be a caregiver for them, plus your children, plus work, plus a husband, all of these things really add up. I mean, if you're a stay-at-home mom and my goodness, you have one plus children, holy moly, you have the hardest job in the entire world. And it's very easy to drop into your masculine and to try and do everything at home and for the kids and for yourself and for your partner and it's too much. Look, like here's the reality. Our bodies biologically, truly, if we look at biological hormones here, we don't have a super high stress capacity. Our hormones say we do not. And that largely goes into our fluctuating estrogen and progesterone levels. And I'm talking menstruating women into perimenopause. And once we go past postmenopausal, it's a little bit different. And there's also a lot of value in that, by the way. If we look at other species that have women that go through or their females go through menopause, they're all matriarchal societies. And there's a good reason for that. And I think we could probably take some lessons from them and really look at the wisdom and the true strengths that come along with being postmenopausal. Okay, going back to premenopausal in our hormones. So when we have higher estrogen levels, we have more stress capacity, which means that from let's say day 2 or 3, let's say day 2 to 4 of our period, with day 1 being the first day that we're bleeding, and bleeding, not just a little bit of spotting or brown blood, through we'll say day 14 to 17, ovulation, and then right before kind of the transition between ovulation and our luteal phase. We have much higher stress capacity because our estrogen levels are higher and our progesterone levels are a little lower. So that gives us more room and space to handle and manage stress. Now, in our luteal phase, and some of you may be very aware of this already, your stress capacity drops. So when we go through these periods, months, if we go through weeks, months, years, and then for so many women, decades of chronic stress, and I'm going to put a big asterisk there because I'm going to come back to that too. When we're embodying this masculine energy, when we're trying to do all the things, keep up with all the things, we can't at some point. Now, look, our body is amazing. Our body has some crazy capacities. We can do some crazy things. The stories where moms, lift up a vehicle or lift up something heavy to save their child, holy moly, incredible. Women being able to grow a human being in our bodies and then being able to push those newborns out of our bodies naturally, and our body was designed for that. And then we can feed and fuel that baby with things that we make from our own body. Oh my gosh. How amazing, how incredible, how strong of a person it takes to do that. And for so many women to do that multiple times, that's a superwoman in my eyes. That's a real superpower. That level of strength to be able to do that multiple times, to do that once, let alone multiple times, is absolutely incredible. Our ability to have multiple transitions throughout our lives and be able to handle it, to be able to handle weird situations that come up, be able to make it through it, to be able to survive all of these things, really incredible. And for so many of us as women, we get stuck in this largely unhealthy masculine energy. And then we end up in total burnout. We end up with chronic sleep issues, chronic fatigue issues, joint pain, muscle aches, autoimmune diseases, chronic viral issues, all kinds of toxin overload issues, hormone imbalances across the board. And I'm not saying this is the only factor that plays into this. And I will tell you, it does play a big role. I'm also going to talk about some very tangible things that we often recommend to clients on embodying your healthy feminine energy and how big of a difference this makes. And I want you to know that if you needed it, not that you need it, and if you do need it at any point in time, take this episode as your permission to work on embodying our healthy feminine energy. Now, the number one thing that helps in embodying our feminine energy, or something that really has made a difference for me, is being around healthy masculine energy. And arguably, this is the first time in my life that I have been around healthy masculine energy. And let me tell you, it has not been smooth sailing this entire time. I'm ready to talk about it now. I've been waiting on this episode. I also have another episode I'm going to be recording where I dive into some of this a little bit deeper. But Jonathan and I went through a rocky period for a handful of months back in probably starting around December of last year, going through maybe March of this year. And, we both questioned at certain periods of time of, were we going to make it? Were we going to make this work? And if we did, what was this really going to look like? The hardest piece for me, and I know just having worked with so many women, and I've worked with so many women right now, especially some of my longer term clients where we do more of the mental and emotional side of things, where we talk about this all the time, is how do you open yourself up to a healthy masculine man and let that, or essence, that healthy masculine energy, and how do we let it support us? And once again, as someone who arguably has never been around healthy masculine energy, who doesn't really know what that looks and feels like, letting him in, true, I mean, from a deep, deep level, letting him in was really challenging. And we have had many fights around this topic. And what does this look like? What does this feel like? What does this look like for me? How does this feel like for me? And then what does that look and feel like for him? And there's a lot of our own traumas, different layers that go into that, a lot of our own shames that go into that. And for me, at least, a big turning moment was so at some point in March. We were having this big conversation, and we had been having big conversations, and there was just a lot of fighting, a lot of a lot of crying, and I was just having a really hard time. And we had just finished eating dinner. He reached across the table, grabbed my hand as we were talking, fighting, and he just said, "Let me in. Let me take care of you." And I don't know if it's the way he said it or something. Maybe I felt it differently. I'm not totally sure. But that was a turning point when I said, "Okay, fine. I am going to let it go. I am going to share all the dark and twisties that are going on for me and that are coming up for me, and I don't need him to fix me. And this is what it looks like to let him in, and to let him in into all of it, all the good, all of the not so good, all of the struggles and the anxieties, and some real honesty, that for me, as someone who grew up with an alcoholic, and this is I see this quite regularly in people who grew up with a abusive parents. That doesn't necessarily mean physically, and it definitely can, but also emotionally abusive, mentally and abusive parents, and adults in your life. And trusting to open up and allowing it and knowing it's going to be safe and not going to be used against you. But also, this not wanting to hurt other people's feelings. For me, the thought of intentionally hurting someone is unfathomable. I know so much firsthand what it feels like to be hurt, to be yelled at, to be lied to be yelled at for literally no reason, for anger to be taken out on me, for frustrations to be taken out on me when I didn't do anything wrong. So the thought of doing that to another human, it makes my stomach literally flip over. But also recognizing how do I share what is coming up for me, some of the things maybe about him that I struggle with, or around a relationship that I struggle with or have a hard time with, or maybe some things that he said to me that have really hurt me. And how do I share this in a way that is being open and honest to let him in while also not being mean? And for me, being able to tap into feminine energy and how I communicate this goes a long way. So a lot of women end up nagging and expressing, taking out a lot of their frustrations on a partner, especially if you are with an unhealthy man, or a partner who does not help you balance things out. So for example, so many women, and I say this from firsthand experience, are married to feminine men who are very laid back, men who will do things if you tell them to, but also won't take initiative, are very, very laid back, help financially, maybe are the provider financially, and that's it. And don't help a lot with the kids, don't help a lot around the house, don't take a lot of accountability and responsibility for a good portion. And that's, where women are doing all of the scheduling, are doing all of the running around, are also doing all of this from a professional standpoint. are handling all of the household things, all of the financial things. It's too much. Once again, we weren't, especially if we look at hormones, we weren't meant to do all of this. And so having that kind of help and support goes a long way. And by the way, if you're single, you have to do most of this yourself. And there are still ways to embody a healthy feminine energy that will be very supportive for you, for your life, for if you're a mom, that for your child or your children, if you're looking for a significant other, for your future significant other, for all of these things. By the way, there's also a lot of value in the workplace of and there are some limitations, and it depends greatly on where you work and who you work for and the environment that you work in. And there's a lot of strengths when it comes to embodying your femininity. And when we think about femininity, it's inviting to the masculine. It is soft, it is nurturing, it is strong in a different way. It is creative, it is flow, it is supportive, it is guiding. It is almost like a guiding light for for the ship that is leading the expedition. I just randomly came up with that. So if that makes no sense, I'm so sorry. It just came up to the top of my brain. Lighthouses are high in my brain for, for other reasons right now. So, we are this pillar of strength, but we're also not meant to do it all. And we're meant to be emotional. We're meant to have more emotions and to feel more emotions and have intuitive senses and to lean into those for sometimes with not a lot of logical reason behind it. And so we offer this great strength that so often in our society it's viewed as a weakness. Don't cry places. Don't be sad. Don't feel these things. Oh no, it's not good. Shove them down. No, feel them. Feel them all, express them all. Now, don't take your emotions out on other people, and there are healthy ways to express this. And so for me, when Jonathan gave me his hand and said, "Let me in," there was an immediate shift. And once again, like, this was not just one conversation. This was a series of conversations. And for me, I don't know what it was about this conversation, but it clicked. Something clicked in me, and I said, okay, I will let you in. I will let you into all of it, and I will let you support me. And it took a lot of strength on his part as well, for reference, to be able to be grounded enough to support me in the quite the wide range of emotions that I was going through, that I continue to go through, and was going through for a good chunk of time. And that is what the masculine is supposed to be. And when you don't have that, when you don't have someone in your life to support you in that manner as a woman, it does make a difference. So one of the most beneficial things you can do is find a masculine man or support your man to, if you are with a man, to embody his masculine energy, embody his masculinity. And by the way, he may not know what that really looks like either. It has been bumpy for both of us. And Jonathan came in having read and done a lot of work already on himself. And we still had quite the rocky road that that we went through. And it continues to not always be smooth, to not always be perfect. And the more we can lean in to our respective energies and embody those more, I think the better our relationship is. And so that means he needs to do his own work to embody his masculinity. I need to do my own work to embody my feminine energy. And then we both need to work together to show up for each other. which is a lot of work. Especially if you, especially like as you, as the woman, as in your feminine essence, is already kind of burnt out. And so this is where taking kind of smaller steps to work on our own feminine energy can go a long way. And this can go a long way for us, for our own healing, for helping to regulate our nervous system. But it can also help inspire his own masculinity. Now, you also need a partner who is willing to show up for themselves and for you. If you do not, there are extra challenges that come along with this. And a lot of times it gets to the point where you have to make some decisions of, okay, are you okay being where you're at, and how can you still do this in a way that's going to support you, your nervous system, your health, your hormone health long term? Or are you better off being by yourself? And I don't say that lightly. I made that decision for myself, and I very much stand by my decision to get divorced several years ago, and also to get remarried now. And that is not the right choice for everyone. So I do want to acknowledge that that is not the right choice for everyone, and it is the better choice for some. So something to just think about. And also, if you are single, if you are with someone and not married, I would really invite you to think about how this person shows up for themselves and for you, and what kind of growth are they open to? Because if they aren't open to growth and healing, there's going to be some strong limitations that can come up around this work. So, what are some things that you can do as a woman to embody more of your own feminine energy? The first really big one that, and this sounds so simple, this makes such a big difference. This is one of the big things that we talk about for a lot of the women that we work with in their healing journeys, is just slowing down when and where you can. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having all the time in the world to do all the things, but it's about not constantly being in a rush and constantly on the go, because when you stop, you're down for the count. If that sounds like you, strong invitation here to take a deeper look at some of this work, because it's really important. This is going to impact your health for the rest of your life. This can make or break relationships. This can be a game changer in your own healing. This is strong words here. This is a game changer for when you get to perimenopause, or if you're already in perimenopause. This can be a game changer. So what do I mean by this? Let's take you getting ready to leave the house. And let's just, for a very easy example, let's just say you are going to a doctor's appointment. I'm just coming up with this example off the top of my head. You are going to a doctor's appointment in the morning by yourself. So what needs to happen before you go to this appointment? You need to get up, you need to get dressed. Is there anything else you need to plan for the day? Like, do you need to plan your outfit for the rest of the day? You probably need breakfast, because you're a woman and we all need to be eating our breakfast, because it's very good for our blood sugar and our hormones and our nervous system. So we need to eat breakfast. Maybe you need to make some coffee or some tea, or have a little drink. Maybe you need to have some water. If you're not doing any sort of mindfulness activity in the morning, strong invitation to also add that into your routine. Even just 1 to 2 minutes can go a really long way. And maybe you need to prayer. I'm just thinking about me. I always like to have snacks with me wherever I go, just in case I get hungry. And I like to have some good and healthy snacks if I need them. So maybe if, for me, I would get my snacks ready to go. So let's say you need an hour and a half to do all of this comfortably and be able to make it and be 10 minutes early to your appointment. For me, I always like being early. Like to give myself a 15-minute window to be early. And that way, if I'm running a few minutes behind, I still have some open space. This is a big piece of this, is giving yourself the space. So for me, I might set my alarm. Let's say I need to leave the house at 7:30. So I'd set my alarm for 6. I would do, maybe a shorter mindfulness routine that morning, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. I like to do my guided energy healing work. That has been a staple for me for the last few months and been a huge game changer. Huge shout out to Christina Rice's app, Next Level You. Such amazing resources, just so good. So maybe you do your few minutes of mindfulness, and then I might get up and get dressed. If I'm going to shower, I'll shower. I'm not a huge morning shower person. I typically shower more in the evenings. And I'll get dressed and kind of wash my face, brush my teeth, drink some water as I go to make sure that's coffee is not the first thing I'm drinking. And then get my breakfast ready. And then for me, I want some downtime to eat my breakfast. So I would spend probably at least 20 or 30 minutes eating my breakfast. For me, that goes a long way. I don't like super rushed mornings. I don't crazy mornings. My body doesn't love crazy mornings. So I want to give myself some space to do that. And then if I need to wrap up with anything else, be able to wrap up with anything else. And then be able to once again, be able to show up 15 minutes early. So I could set my alarm for 6 and have plenty of time to do all of that. Or I could set my alarm for 6:30, have an extra 30 minutes of sleep, which would also feel amazing, and then be rushed. I need the extra time. Can you set yourself up maybe the night before and do a couple things? If it were me, I'd have my outfit ready to go the night before. For me, my breakfasts right now are pretty simple. I usually meal prep some of my protein pancakes for the week, and I'll have some chicken sausage with that to get lots of good protein. I get good fiber because there's lots of good berries in those pancakes. I'm getting good protein, good fiber, and some carbs in there to get me going. Maybe I'm filling up my water bottle the night before. Maybe I'm getting, just all my stuff kind of ready to go if I need to take any paperwork with me, all that kind of stuff. So that takes pressure off me the morning of, because I want a few extra minutes. I don't want to feel rushed the entire time. Now, am I going to be able to do that all the time? No. When it is within my power to do so, I'm going to take a few extra minutes. Cooking, instead of trying to rush from working all day to cooking right at night, I'm probably going to try and give myself, to the best of my ability, a 15-minute buffer between work and cooking, to go sit outside for a few minutes, to do some deep breathing, to go take a short walk, to just like decompress for a few minutes, and then still have plenty of time to be able to cook. Maybe I give myself an extra 10 minutes to be able to cook. And while I'm cooking, I'm putting on music, I'm dancing to music, I'm trying to have some fun with it and trying not be so serious about everything. But just the slowing down, even the tiniest bit, can go a long way. The other thing I really try and do, which I just kind of mentioned here, is I try and have an intention around this. And I try to, even mundane tasks, for me, like all the bookkeeping, all of the financial side of things, it's not my favorite. It is not the most fun for me, and it's extremely important for this business, for my personal life. And so, maybe I put on some really good music while I'm doing that and try and enjoy myself, even for things I don't like. Even if I'm washing the dishes, I've got some music on, or I've got, a good book playing in the background, or listening to an interesting podcast that's funny. And I'll tell you another big thing that I have shifted is I used to listen to a lot of educational materials. I would listen to all kinds of books and podcasts and trainings on anything and everything health and wellness related because I'm so passionate about it. While I do listen to these things sometimes, they've got to be really compelling. And I've also got to be in a good space to be able to listen to these things because it's overwhelming. I want to listen to a comedy podcast, a podcast about not a lot, just something lighthearted. If you guys, I love stand-up comedy. Nate Land, which is founded by Nate Bargatze, who's a stand-up comedian, has is building this empire of relatively clean comedy pretty across the board. And man, I love some of the podcasts in his world and in his space. He used to have his own podcast called Nate Land. He's no longer on the podcast, and it's the three other comedians called Public Figures. For me, I really like Tom Segura. I really like oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. It's the Whiskey Ginger podcast, and I just forgot the guy who hosts his name. Anyways, I for me, they're fun, they're enjoyable, they're not really about anything, and it's a time to just decompress, which is so important. So slowing down, intention around what you're doing goes a long way. I'll also say we get so caught up in the busyness sometimes, we forget to breathe. And that it can sound silly, but checking in on your breath throughout the day. Just how are you breathing? Are you breathing short, shallow breaths from your chest? Or are you in your belly taking bigger, deep belly breaths? Can you take little breaks throughout the day and just do some deep breathing? Man, does that go a long way, and it will soften you. And it will help bring you back into more of a parasympathetic state. The things go such a long way. This is a big one. This is also a hard one for a lot of women. Girl, I know. I got you once again. I know how hard this is, but where can you delegate? Where can you ask for help? Even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. I'll tell you, this has gotten way easier for me. It can still feel really uncomfortable, and there are many times where it is no longer uncomfortable. I'll tell you, the morning I woke up, we got married. Once again, I wasn't feeling great, and I had a couple things I needed to do, food preparation wise. And I was like, look, I am just not. It is taking all of my energy just to like think about getting in the shower and starting to get ready. I need help. And so I texted my now mother-in-law and asked her to come a little bit early and help. And you know what? She was happy to do it. She was totally happy to do it. There was no questions asked. It was, of course, I'll see you then. I asked Jonathan to help me out with a couple of things. And I said, hey, look, like I'm really dizzy. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stand during the ceremony. And he's like, I already have chairs out there in case we need them. And so I was, trying to delegate different things to help and support me. Same thing with, for us, Jonathan and I, we do a lot of, we're big on food. We really like meal prepping. And what does this look like? And this has shifted quite a bit. And so it's him asking for help, but also sometimes me asking for help. And it depends on the week. So I usually cook Mondays. And then when he started working more, he said, hey, I'm feeling very overwhelmed with cooking. I said, okay, well, why don't I take a second meal? And as long as you're okay with that kind of switching up week to week, depending on what my schedule looks like, I'm totally fine. And that may look like maybe I cook on the weekend and maybe I cook on Mondays, or maybe I cook Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Thursday. It just kind of depends. Wednesdays are typically my later nights, so I don't typically cook on Wednesday nights. So, and just looking at that, and it's like, yeah, of course. And it's, different things. Hey, I'm really struggling this week. Like I'm super busy this week. Can you do the dishes? I was planning on doing the dishes today. Can you just do the dishes? I got really overwhelmed. I'm feeling really stressed. It would be really helpful if you could just wash the dishes. And of course he's gonna say yes. Here's the thing. When you're asking for help, especially if you're asking help from your man, don't nag, don't bug. Come from a place of expressing how you feel. For me, this would look like, "Hey, babe." Babe is the nickname that I use most often with him. I say, "Hey, babe, my workday got really crazy today. I'm feeling really overwhelmed and really stressed, and I would really love if you could help me today by washing the dishes and just doing the dishes. And that would just make me feel, just take one thing off my plate and make me feel so much better." Notice in the way that I communicated with this, not, "Hey, can you do the dishes?" It was a, "Hey, hey, babe, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm feeling really stressed. I'm feeling really fatigued. I'm feeling really run down. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling panicky. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety present for me right now. I'm really struggling today. It would be so helpful for me and make me feel so much better if you could help." The healthy masculine man wants to support you. The masculine man loves to fix things. If you give him a task and say, "Hey, babe, this would help me so much and help me feel so much better," oh my gosh, they should be, if you are with the right person, they should absolutely want to help and support you. A lot of this goes into how you present this. And I will tell you, clients, when they've started shifting some of their language and how they start asking for things, makes a world of difference. It really, really does. So that's a really big thing. Where can you delegate? How can you ask for help? How can you soften in small ways to let him in, to allow him to be in your world so that he can support you? And sometimes, and this can also be exhausting, sometimes you have to teach them what that looks like for you. Because here's the other thing. Sometimes what you're doing does not feel supportive for them either. And so when you're having these conversations, when you're starting to make these shifts, you also need to be open to shifting how you support him as well. And I think that has also been challenging for me, of, "What do you mean I'm not doing these certain things? Like, here's 100% how I'm doing this." But how they perceive it may be different, because here's also a big thing. Our brains work differently. This is biology. This is, a lot of it has to do with our hormones, by the way. And as a woman, I'm sure at this point, how much your hormones can impact your mood, your cognitive health, your communication skills, all of these things. Our hormones can play a really big role in. And so when you have all of this irritability that comes up, all of this overwhelm that comes up, being able to share that in a healthy way and ask for help, super good for your stress levels, super good for your nervous system, super good for your hormones, especially leading up to and during perimenopause. This goes a really, really long way. We need sleep. It is a non-negotiable. We need more sleep than men. We have seen this in many, many, many studies. We need more sleep than men. 8.5 hours is usually what we need. How do you make that happen? And I know if you have small kids, or an infant, this can be very challenging. Our bodies don't respond to a lack of sleep, especially over time. This is a complicated one. We've done episodes on sleep before, so I would invite you to go listen to some of those. But we have to sleep. We have to sleep. We need it. We need good quality sleep. We need good amount of sleep. And so what does this look like? As I've talked about in many episodes, especially the past couple of weeks, know your cycle. Know your strengths and your weaknesses. Know what is going to shift for you throughout your cycle. In our luteal phase, we don't have as much capacity. If you're in perimenopause and your progesterone's already dropping, also if you're just not in perimenopause and you've been chronically stressed and have some other health issues going on, tolerance for stress in your luteal phase goes down. Do what you can. Once again, this is not about being perfect. Do what you can to work around this. I try and not have big deadlines for myself in my luteal phase, if I can help it. Our wedding was strategic for a variety of reasons, including that it was right around ovulation. So the goal was to be at my best. It was also our 1-year anniversary of being engaged. That played a big role. And conveniently, it really worked well with my cycle, and being able to have that stress leading up to it and having that increased stress capacity was a big role in all of this. We also need space. As women, we need space to ourselves. So do men, by the way. And we also need spaces with other women. The amount of studies that have come out about women talking to other women and how that decreases cortisol levels within minutes is incredible. It's very, very strong. And so we need other women. So we need space. We need space to be alone, to work on ourselves, to help regulate our own nervous systems, to be soft around ourselves, to let things go, to wander, to look at the birds, to look at nature, to go get a cup of coffee, to go walk outside, to get a manicure or pedicure or massage or whatever it is that fills your own cup up. You need that. And then kind of the last thing I have on this list is, how can you soften on a day-to-day basis? The healthy masculine responds to the softness of the feminine. It also goes a long way, once again, in your own life. I'll tell you, there are times, especially when I get emails from clients and maybe I feel overwhelmed. Maybe I'm in my luteal phase. Maybe I had sleep the best the night before and I'm feeling very high strung. And I'll see an email and it'll light me up, or I'll see a message, something, and I could go off. At that point in time, I know I need some time to soften and reconnect with myself. So I might take a few minutes, a few hours, maybe a whole day. Depends on the situation. Because I want to answer and I want to be able to show up for myself, for Jonathan, for our clients, the business, for the rest of my team in the best way possible. And that looks like strong feminine energy is how I want to show up. And I want to be soft. And by the way, once again, softness is a strength. It is not a weakness. I'll tell you, when I am more vulnerable, it depends on the situation, but when I'm vulnerable with clients, when I can meet them where they are from an emotional level, man, we have some of our biggest breakthroughs. And that requires me to have a high level of emotional intelligence, to tap into my intuition and to be able to emotionally connect with these other amazing, amazing women. And I can't do that. I can't help them at the same level if I'm stuck in my masculine energy. With the children, man, this goes a long way, and will you be tested? Especially emotionally, will you be tested? Here's the other thing. Include your kids in your own regulation. When we have clients do that, man, it's so helpful. And we see these children pick up on these tools so fast, and it's amazing. Just being like, when they get overwhelmed, when they're like, oh, I need to take some deep breaths because I feel overwhelmed. And I'm talking small children. How incredible For them to show for you to be able to show them that you're overwhelmed and the tools that you have, my goodness, they're always watching you. And if you can show up for yourself in your soft but very strong feminine presence, man, does that go such a long way. For you, for them, oh my goodness. So much strength in that. And then how do we inspire? How do we tap into our feminine essence and show up in a way that can help inspire him into his masculine energy, which will allow him to show up and be a stronger support for you. And this allows you to stay softer. I'll tell you one of the biggest things I'm working on now is how do I stay soft when he's not in his strong masculine, when he's processing, when he's working through things, how do I remain soft and be able to show up for him in my softness, which then helps him and inspires him to process enough to be back into his strong masculine energy. And we were just talking about this yesterday. It goes such a long way for him. And he said to me directly in that how I show up in my softness feels so nurturing and so inspiring for him. And this is what it's supposed to feel like. And so what does that really look like? I'll tell you a big thing that really goes a long way for Jonathan, and I've heard this across many, many, many spaces, is be flirty. I try and be flirty and give, little touches, little arm touches, soft kisses, asking for his help, whether I really need it or not. A lot of times, I'm pretty strong. I can open a jar, but I can also ask him to do it. And he feels needed. He feels desired. He feels like he has a purpose when he can help me. And he likes that. It lights him up. And follow that up with a soft kiss and a thank you. My goodness, his heart will explode. Trust me. And once again, it takes both parties to do this well. Oftentimes the feminine is going first just because we often are more aware of this than the man. Oftentimes, not 100%. It's also a big benefit of being with someone who's already done a lot of their own work and can be able to show up in that way. Next thing I wrote down here is let him lead. And I could feel eyes rolling at me because I have rolled my eyes at that statement so many times. Men love to lead. They're born leaders in a lot of ways. They also need us to be able to lead. And so what does that look like? For us, Jonathan and I have a little bit of untraditional roles. While we both work, I work more. I am also the primary financial provider. So I do lead in that way. And I take care of, certainly my finances, the business finances. And I do let Jonathan lead. And I'll tell you, not being in charge of all the things, oh my goodness, it's amazing. He leads a lot in, activities that we do. Or, I might say something like, oh, I'm really craving a beach day. I'm really craving some time at the beach with you. And I'd love to, go sit in the sand for a couple hours and get in the water. And I'll throw that out there. And then he runs with it. Hey babe, on Saturday we're gonna go do a beach day. We're gonna leave earlier in the morning. So if you can have kind of like your stuff ready to go, that'd be great. We'll sleep in a little bit, make some breakfast, and then we're gonna go drive 30 minutes and do a couple hours at the beach. Awesome. Love it. I didn't have to plan anything. I just had to plant the seeds and kind of like drip it in there. And he takes the lead with dates. He plans the vast majority of our dates. And that feels really nice. And there are other like little ways that he leads in our relationship. I really let him. All the planning for when we move in our home, I let him do all of that. And I was just along for the ride, helping with a variety of other things. And it took so much stress away from me. And has this been perfect? Also, no. There have been mistakes, there have things have fallen through the cracks, and I have let them. And there are times where I have said something, and once again, it's how you say it. "Hey, babe, I see you were thinking about this. What if we did this? Or what about," and it's once again, it's how you communicate this. And I'll tell you, being out of the nagging, out of the yelling kind of energy of that, that also feels really nice. It's very regulating for the nervous system to not have to get that worked up and to be able to have to go into that space. Also asking him to step up in a variety of ways. And once again, I like this kind of formula of, leading in from a, "Hey babe, I am really feeling whatever you are feeling. Insert whatever you are feeling. If you insert action that would be very supportive for you, could help me with this, could do this, could plan this, it would really make me feel, how would that make you feel?" Using that formula, super powerful. And really invite him to step up. Man, it makes such a big difference. I'll also say, with the flirty thing, men respond a lot to the physical, we'll say. I'm not going to get too deep into that in this episode, and I am going to talk more about this in a different episode, but also understanding that as women, and especially in our own healthy feminine, we crave more of that emotional connection that helps keep us feeling safe. For men, it's physical connection. So understanding that goes a long way too. And, looking at your physical side of your relationship can also go a long way. What does that look like? What does that look like for you? What does that look like for him? What does that look like together? Does that mean it needs to be scheduled? You know, Intimacy sessions need to be scheduled. What about, can you guys, even just how you kiss? For me in previous relationships, long-term relationships, serious relationships, it would usually be like a peck before bed or before leaving or something like that. It's not usually how we greet or say goodbye to each other. It's a little bit deeper. And once again, that lights a fire under him to want to show up, to want him to lead, to be in his masculine, to support me, to protect me, to be there for me and to be my foundation. And once again, a lot of that work is on him, but also I have the ability to inspire him to be like that. And the more you can inspire him with your softness, the less that's really on your plate. The more that you can feel safer, and that safety piece goes such a long way for your nervous system. And I'll tell you, that has been a game changer for my nervous system. Just the level of safety I feel and just certain things not having to be on my plate anymore. So refreshing. And it has allowed me to heal in some very different and deeper ways. And so, once again, this isn't about being perfect. And I just wanted to introduce you, because it's been a little bit since we've talked about this, into some different things that can feel really supportive and really helpful in your healing journey and how you show up for yourself. Once again, most importantly, how you show up for yourself, but then also being able to show up as the person that you want for those around you, to have a good relationship. If you want to have a relationship, by the way, if you don't want to have a relationship, that's okay too. Being able to be in that softness for yourself goes such a long way and is so valuable for you. There's translations into friendships, into work. Like, there's a lot of value in all of this, even if you are single and not in a relationship whatsoever. But embodying these dynamics a little bit more, especially in a relationship, can be extremely, extremely supportive in your overall health, in your hormone health, in your gut health, in your nervous system health, your sleep health. All of these things go such a long way. So really, like, invitation to take that little list and pick one. Pick one to start with, really just go from there. How can you pick one of these things really start to embody it. Start to really look at these and figure out where you can really start and how to be a little bit softer, how to take your time a little bit more with a handful of these things, and what does that really look like, and how can you start really feeling into this. So, thank you for listening. As always, please like, subscribe, follow. If it resonates, 5-star reviews really, really, really mean the world to us. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.